Hello, every pony. We are back and ready for the second chapter of On Across an Arrow, Part 2, Out of the Mouths of Babes, which, just from the title, sounds interesting. I don't know why, but I decided I want to do this as a cold read, this particular chapter. I have no idea why. It's probably a horrible idea, but it has something to do with the fact that I've been drinking so far. So, that might be involved. Finally, went and picked up some of my tastier wine, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm almost finished my first glass, and I haven't even started recording yet. Alright, well, technically I've started recording now. I haven't started recording the story. Alright, you know what you meant. You know what I meant. You know what I meant. Let's just let it go. Anyway. So yes. Chapter 2, Part 2, whatever you want to call it. I'm sitting on the page for the story. I have not even scrolled down to look at the text yet. I don't even know what the first word is yet. So, we will see what happens. Oh, okay. What could possibly go wrong? That's right, I said it. Alright. Part 2. Out of the Mouths of Babes. Out in a field somewhere, outside of Sweet Apple Acres, two fillies were keeping their distances from each other. I'm a bit worried about those two, Applejack spoke, glancing between Twilight and Fluttershy, who were both sitting on the ground with their backs turned to one another, paced about 3 yards apart. Both ponies possessed a blush of sorts on their faces, and were also giving each other awkward glances and avoidances. They just need time, dear, Rarity replied, though she herself was looking a bit Twitter-pated as well. I know that word, but like the existence of Twitter kind of makes it seem like a little weird. Anyway, I mean, the reaction here is understandable after all. Did you get a good look at him? I must say, Twilight makes for a handsome colt. Rainbow rolled her eyes. Isn't there like a time and place for everything? We need to get our game together, guys. Dashy's right, Pinkie interjected, her stance suddenly proud and tall. We need to make a plan and get ourselves over this. Besides, it's no fun when your best friends are being all awkward pants with each other over themselves and their not-selves. She seated herself between the unicorn and Pegasus, and then implemented her as-yet unexplained powers of pi, as her limbs stretched out and roped the two perplexed ponies together. You two are still friends, aren't you? Twilight looked at Pinkie before giving Fluttershy another glance and a small, hopeful smile. A few seconds passed before the butter Pegasus returned the smile and spoke. I'm sorry, Twilight. I know Dusk is kind of like you, but I should still think of the two of you as separate ponies. It's less confusing that way. The student nodded. Thanks, Shy. I can only imagine if the roles had been reversed, if I'd run into Butterscotch back in our own world. Speaking of worlds, the White Unicorn interjected, I think it's quite obvious now that the earlier mirror circumstances theory is thoroughly debunked. Our other selves are still here, the farmer added, looking around at the field. And now we've got to worry about the other time paradoxican thingamajigger y'all were talking about. You know, the one where we meet each other and we stop existing. I know, Twilight replied. Right. Here's what we need to do. We need to stay out of Ponyville as much as equinely possible. Oh, I like that. That's clever. Equinely possible. I'll try to cast the spell again, but I need time to prepare it. Until it's ready, we all need to keep our heads low. That means all of us. Got it, Rainbow? Yeah, I hear ya, the Pegasus snorted, hovering on her back. Seriously, this is gonna cut way into my practicing time. You're still on that practicing bit? AJ eyed her with a crooked expression. Well, I was, before Twilight called us all over and we got caught up in this weird alternate dimension business. I had a new trick I was gonna try and do. A double rainbow... She was interrupted as a twin explosion of color occurred in the sky right behind her. Every pony directed their attention upwards as two circles of multi-hued light spread out and covered the blue. Speeding away from the discs was a solid beam of rainbow that twisted its way upwards and away, fading into the distance. The last thing they expected was for Rainbow Dash herself to start jumping up and down, cheering at the sight. "Oh yeah, did you see that? It was awesome, like way more than 20% awesome. Man, I am good. Just look at me go." To nobody's surprise, Pinkie joined in the cheering, and soon even Fluttershy was jumping with them. AJ, Rarity, and Twilight hung back as they all looked at each other. "This is going to be a challenge," the farmer pony quipped. "We've got our work cut out for ourselves." "What do we do, Twilight?" Rarity asked. "Back home, Dash is the fastest flyer in Equestria. Now there's two of them, and though she may seem placated now," she glanced at the cheering squad, "we all know that her pride won't stand for that." "One problem at a time, please," the unicorn pleaded, a hoof massaging her forehead. "Okay, so we know that today is still today, thanks to that rain boom. We can put any lingering time-traveling doubts to bed. That said, we need to get out of this town, first and foremost. Where's a good spot we can hide?" There's the old treehouse. We can camp out there," the orange pony enthused. "AJ, you know about the treehouse." "Yeah, so?" "Think about it. Anything that you know..." Green eyes widened. "Anything I know, my other self's bound to know, too." "Well, shucks, didn't think of that." Ooh, we can hide it at Sugar Cube Corner." Pinkie popped up, blue eyes gleaming as always. Or space! Wanna go to space? Hey, wanna go to space?" Oh, what does that remind you of? Space! Anyway. Another drinky. Okay. Twilight rolled her eyes. "That won't work, Pinkie. I didn't think about it before, but this applies to all of us." She lumped on the ground as the rest of the ponies gathered around her. "Any hiding spot that we can think of, our other selves are going to think of too. And we can't ask for help from any of the town's ponies. They'd become suspicious." The party pony hummed to herself, before something in the distance caught her eye. "What about those guys?" As one, every pony looked in the direction Pinkie was pointing at. There was a red and orange blur working its way down the path towards them. As it got closer, a noise began to fill the air. The buzzing of miniature wings. "Crusaders!" Fluttershy yelped, her eyes wide as she tried to make out the forms of three small ponies. Twilight, A wide-eyed Applejack groped for words, a pit having suddenly appeared in the bottom of her stomach. I think we should get out of here, Twi. I don't think I'm ready for this." To tell the truth, Rarity half grinned, half grimaced, as she trotted up next to the farm pony, muscles tensing for a bolt. "I'm not sure I'm prepared either. Shall we make ourselves scarce?" Again, Twilight bit her lip as she sighted the rapidly incoming wagon. She'd have been able to see Female Spike from behind a window. This oncoming disaster would involve face-to-face meetings between the two elder sisters and their little brothers. She could see the reasoning behind their reluctance, but still. Apparently, she'd been too slow. She found herself suddenly scooped up by Dash as the Pegasus angled herself for the nearby tree line. She was quickly joined by the rest of the gang as they fled the oncoming Crusader mobile. Not that it did them any good. Applejack, heading the pack, tripped on an errant rock. There was a general cacophony of noise as limbs and bodies flailed through the air. Twilight knocked herself out of Dash's grasp by a wayward Pinkie Pie. Twilight herself knocked out of Dash's grasp by a wayward Pinkie Pie. The resultant pastel-colored pile of ponies... Blah. Try saying that 5 times fast. The resultant pastel-colored pile of ponies rested at the bottom of a hill, a face-hoofing blue Pegasus hovering above them. And that's when the Cutie Mark Crusaders caught up. "Whoa! On there!" A squeaky voice called out. "Scoot, slow down!" I'm trying, said another. The fillies all grimaced as the wagon shot past them, screeching to a halt. A small orange Pegasus panted as he fell off his scooter, wings twitching spasmodically. A yellow earth pony and white unicorn both fumbled at their helmets, unhitching the headgear and hopping out to help their friend back on his feet. Apple Bloom? The farmer gulped, her heart up in her throat. The yellow one turned to look at them. Though the eyes were orange and the mane was crimson, there was no sign of eyelashes or a bow-adorned ponytail. Instead, a faded red, backwards-pointed baseball cap adorned the young colt's head. He looked the group over, eyes full of worry. Golly, he spoke. Oh, okay. Voice not that much lower than his originals. Golly, he spoke. Y'all alright? Looks like y'all took a real tumble. He was joined by the white colt, his lavender hair slightly straight up front, only curling in the back. His voice was quite squeaky as he spoke. Oh, that looks like it hurt. Here, let us help. I can't do squeaky. Deal with it. He darted forward and grabbed a pink hoof, pulling as hard as he could. It's okay, Fluttershy stuttered, flapping her wings as she untangled herself. We just, tripped. Tripped, huh? Said the last school pony. As Twilight eyed the orange one up and down, she had to admit that besides the lack of eyelashes, she didn't look, nor sound, that much different from his other self. Must have been some trip if you made a mess like this. We didn't scare you, did we? Pfft, Dash replied as she landed next to a flailing Rarity. As if you'd be scared by some kids on a red flyer wagon. Yeah, imagine that. Applejack laughed as she got to her hooves. Tain't easily scared by no... She paused as she saw her brother sitting right in front of her. No, pony. The little horse let his eyes travel up and down the apple farmer's body before he closed his eyes in a smile. Howdy. Y'all are new around these parts, ain't you? I'm Applebuck, and these are my friends, Silverbell and Scooterroll. Scooterroll. That's amazing. Okay. Hello, Silver cheered, gaining a slightly panicked look from the dressmaker mare. The scooter pony simply nodded his head. Why, hello, Twilight greeted, walking up to the front. Yes, we're kinda new. Sorry for the running. We didn't know you guys were friendly. Aw, shucks, we ain't nothing to be afraid of. Applebuck cheered as his interdimensional relative continued staring at him with wide eyes. We can give you all the grand tour of Ponyville if y'all like. Oh, come on, Scooterroll groaned. I thought we were going to try to get our high-diving cutie marks this afternoon. A high-diving? Rarity blurted. Eyes now going from one Crusader to the next, though they always linger on the white colt. Good gracious, do you three always do such dangerous stunts? More often than I'd like, Silver admitted, his green eyes doing a roll. It was now that Rainbow Dash's own eyes became wide as the idea coursed through her head. Quickly she trotted to the front as she leaned her head down and whispered conspiratorially. Actually, they put conspirationally. I think only one of those is a word, and I'm not sure which one, so I'm not going to argue the point. Hey, want to try for a different cutie mark? The orange Pegasus looked over, a hoof going up and stroking his chin. I'm listening. Dash, what are you doing? Twilight hissed through her teeth. Just trust me on this, Rainbow hissed back before turning to the Crusaders. You see, my friends... Oh, I messed that up. You see, my friends and I are new in town. But the thing is, we can't just let any pony see us. You can't? Nope. She gave a shake of her multicolored mane. You see, there's a few mysterious folks in town. Folks that my friends and I are tracking. Dash, what in tarnat... But Applejack was quickly silenced as a wing bopped her on the noggin. We are... Here, the Pegasus reared onto her hind legs as she struck a pose. A secret sector of the equestrian government. One who tracks down the ponies who do... stuff with no permits. We are mares in black. Somewhere in the back, a unicorn face-hoofed. And I totally understand that. However, the story was enough to sell the three colts. Wow! The trio gaped in unison. That's so cool! And right now, Dash turned away and crossed her hose behind her back, a pink pony mirroring her actions. "We need help. If we can, we'd like..." Turnabout pose, a hoof pointed at the Crusaders. "Your help." How? How can we help?" Applebutt gushed, words running together as he spoke a mile a minute. I know how that feels. The blue one smirked as she turned towards her lavender friend. "Agent T, would you care to fill our friends in?" Sure," Twilight sputtered, stepping forward again. "What we really need right now is a hiding place. Some place that no pony else knows of. Not your friends and not, your family. This is really important. Do you know of any place like that?" The three ponies looked at each other, apparently deep in thought. At long last, Scooter Frol lifted his head up. "You thinking what I'm thinking?" he asked his friends. "Yep," the yellow pony replied. "The hedge." "I was thinking that too," Silver added. "But that's right on the edge of the Everfree Forest. Do you think they'd be safe?" "Sure they'd be safe," the Scooty Pony quipped. Scooty Pony, I like that. I gotta remember that. His eyes alight with admiration. "I mean, come on, they're agents. I bet they face down worse things than Manicores or Ursa Majors. They'll be fine." "Sure," Pinky enthused, popping up behind the trio. "We can take care of any meanie beanies that try to bop us. If any pony tries to gamble with us, they'll find..." Here, the party pony... Oh, God, no, don't do this. Oh, God. Oh, you're gonna destroy what little seriousness I have for this entire conversation. Alright, fine. I see what you're gonna do. Fine, whatever. "Sure," Pinky enthused, popping up behind the trio. "We'll take care of any meanie beanies that try to bop us. If anybody tries to gamble with us, they'll find..." Here, the party pony pulled a pair of sunglasses out of hammer space before setting them on her face. "That the dice are loaded against them." Yeah, that just happened. There was an awkward pause, for good reason, with copious amounts of staring, for good reason. She stared back. "I thought there was supposed to be a yell followed by a song," she explained before slinking back into the group. Twilight shook her head. "Anyway, that sounds perfect, guys. Can you take us to it?" "Can do," Applebuck cheered before all three cults jumped up together and belted out their newest mission statement. "Cutie Mark Crusader Super Secret Spy Mission! Yeah!" Let's see, how far along are we? Like halfway-ish, I think? Okay. Crap, where was I? There we go. Alright. Another drink. Okay. "Hey," Silverbell quipped some minutes later. "If you're supposed to be mares in black, then shouldn't you be wearing, black?" "Oh, Rarity's eyes darted around in thought. "Our suits are currently at the dry cleaners. You see, they got filthy on our last mission." The little unicorn nodded, apparently satisfied with that explanation. "Gotta keep 'em snazzy and neat. My big brother would say," he cheered. "Oh, does he really?" she replied, the thought of there being a male version of herself sending... She wasn't sure if they were shivers or tickles down her spine. "What's your brother's name?" The boy opened his mouth to reply, but then closed it. I'm not sure if I should say. I don't want to get him in trouble. I mean, he's not in trouble, is he, Miss Agent?" He looked at her with imploring eyes. She had to blink. For a second, that wasn't Silver, but Sweetie staring back at her, begging for forgiveness. This was going to be much harder than she thought. I don't know, dearie. If I don't know his name, then I can't be sure if he is in trouble or not." Rarity then brightened with a reassuring smile. "But then again, maybe that's for the best. It is a better idea to play it safe, after all, right?" Her brother returned her smile at full power. "Right," he agreed. The group was being led by the Crusader mobile, going at a much slower speed than before. Rainbow Dash hovered alongside the diminutive trio, while the other five were strung out behind, slowly making their way to the periphery of the Everfree itself. "So," Scooterroll suddenly spoke up, turning to the Blue Pegasus.
What's up? What do you do in the group?
Dash gave him a grin.
I'm the speed reconnaissance pony. You can call me Agent D. I don't like to brag, but you see, I'm the fastest flyer in all Equestria.
Oh boy, here we go. Unbelieving purple eyes bored into her.
No way, you can't be the fastest. That tower belongs to Rainbow Blitz.
For a split second, her wings faltered as she dropped a few inches to the ground before catching herself.
Oh yeah. Was he the guy who did that, double rain boom earlier? He sure was.
His face took on a dreamy look as he rambled on.
Rainbow Blitz is the coolest pony who ever lived. He even won the Best Young Flyers Cup in Cloudsdale. Man, someday when I'm able to fly right, I'm going to ask him to be my teacher.
Dash took a second for that to sink in. She knew that back in her world, Scootaloo hung out around her often. But this was the first time she'd heard about flight lessons, however. And if Boy Scoot had such plans... Boy Scoot, that sounds weird. Alright. Her thoughts were interrupted as the orange colt spoke again.
Say, you sure you're not a fan?
He questioned, eyeing her mane and tail.
You sure look an awful lot like him. You even have the same cutie mark. Really? She replied, trying to appear nonchalant. Wow, weird. But nope, never heard of the guy till today. Maybe we're just long-lost cousins, you know? He came out of Cloudsdale, right?
There was a nod as the two lapsed into a more casual conversation, discussing the exploits of her dimensional twin. Back in the wagon, Applebuck stretched his limbs before sighing. I'm gonna hop out and walk. My hooves are falling asleep.
Oh, okay,
Silver hastily replied as the yellow pony leapt out of their transport. Quickly he found himself trotting alongside the other fillies, his eyes studying them. He'd never been with so many older girls in his life. Somewhere in the back of his mind he could see why a stallion could fall head over heels with one. His eyes gravitating towards the pink one occasionally.
Still, girls are icky, he thought to himself. I don't need no frou-frou stuff cramping my style.
Then, not for the first time, the young colt's eyes locked on the orange pony. What? No, kidding. If it weren't for the fact that she was a mare, she was a dead ringer for some pony he knew. Quickly he trotted up until he was walking alongside the Stetson-bearing horse. She hadn't noticed until a minute or so later, her green eyes flickering downwards before giving a slight jump as she focused on him.
Hiya.
Hi, the boy answered, voice as cheerful as before.
Don't be scared none. I don't have any cooties, I swear.
Despite the unease the farmer pony was feeling about her brother, she couldn't help but crack a smile at that.
I'm sorry, Sugar Cube. I'm just a little on edge. Y'all can understand that, right?
Applebuck gave a nod in return. They continued to walk together in silence, their gazes flickering back and forth from each other. At length he found himself speaking again.
Say, would you think it weird if I said that y'all reminded me of some pony else?
The orange equine could feel the sweat beading on her brow.
I don't know. Who'd I remind you of?
My big brother, Applejack. He and I work on a farm not far from here, Sweet Apple Acres. We live there together with Red Gala and Grampy Smith. I can introduce y'all sometime if you'd like. They're all right good folks. God, I so want to meet female Big Mac. That sounds hilarious. There was no answer for a few seconds, the blonde running the names through her head. Red Gala was more than likely Big Mac, though she was having a hard time picturing him as a female. See, I know, exactly. I want to see that. However, what was really worrying her was the fact that her male self apparently still had the same name as she did. I guess Applejack's pretty non-gender specific, ain't it? She thought to herself. She realized that the yellow pony was still staring at her.
I'm sorry, she said quickly.
It's just that, well, y'all remind me of my own little sister back home. That's why I've been acting so weird towards you. A confused yet curious look spread across his face.
I do? Well, don't that beat all, hey?
Well, don't that beat all? Pause. Hey! His eyes had finally spotted the trio of apples that served as her cutie mark. Y'all got apples on you. They wouldn't happen to have an apple... You wouldn't happen to have an apple farm too, would you? She looked down as she thought fast.
Yeah, I do. It's just clear on the other side of Equestria. Can't even make it to the reunions, usually.
The Apple family reunion? He enthused. Y'all are Apple family? Applejack finally lifted her head as she returned his gaze. A few times removed, but yeah, I'm proud to say that I'm Apple family. This is going downhill very fast. She thought she'd been making good progress on dealing with her conflicted emotions towards her alternate sibling. However, she was quite unprepared as the cult galloped up and rubbed up against her in that familiar way. She tensed up as she cheered. Yay, apples forever! I found a new cousin! Say, cousin, y'all never told me your name, you know? What you called? Oh, snap. Her brain racked for an answer. Y'all can, just call me JJ for now. My real name's a secret, super spy stuff and all that. Sure thing, Applebuck replied happily, his excitement giving him cause to leap and buck in the air a few times as he dashed back towards the front. I got a new cousin! And there it was. As she watched him cavort, that emotion that she was scared of feeling flooded into her heart, leaving her lightheaded. It was family. She felt the attachment forming, equal parts happiness and pride at Applebuck's cheerfulness. He's not Apple Bloom, she told her heart. He's a different pony from her. I can't start thinking that he's my family, 'cause he just ain't. But her heart stood firm. We're here, Scooterroll announced as they finally stopped in front of a rather tall and wide gathering of bushes. Twilight looked over at the mass of foliage with a wary eye. Is this the place? Yep, Silver replied. The hedge. Oh, dearie me, Rarity moaned. We have to go inside that? Just think of the debris that'll get caught in my mane. Applebuck chuckled. Oh no, girls, these bushes are just for cover. Follow me, I'll show you all the entrance. They all watched as the yellow earth pony trotted towards a smallish space between the two bushes. He ducked down and went inside, seemingly disappearing. He was quickly followed by his friends and one Pinkie Pie, who stuck her head in first before entering. Ooh, spiffy, she said, an echoing quality to her voice. Twilight and Fluttershy exchanged looks before the unicorn herself trotted forth. As she got low and entered... got low. Anyway, as she got low and entered, she felt the slope of dirt extending downwards beneath her hooves. Welcome to the hedge, Scooterroll replied, as Silver Bell activated his horn, giving light to their surroundings. It was a burrow, quite a fair-sized one at that, more than big enough for 3 school ponies. There were already signs of furnishing, a rock table at one end, and a long bench up against the wall. We were going to use this as our clubhouse till Big Bro showed us the treehouse, Applebuck explained. Blah, 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 blah. We haven't used it since. Make yourselves at home. It managed to hold all 9 ponies at once, with some walking room still. Rarity found herself tisking as she began sweeping the floor. My, such appalling conditions. But I suppose that's to be expected. What with a little bit of work, this will be a cave fit for a king. As Scooterroll and Rainbow Dash performed synchronous eye-rolling, Fluttershy inspected the roof. This used to be a rabbit warren. I can tell. She spoke, soft as ever. The bush hoops above are keeping the ceiling in place. We should be safe here for a long time. Good enough for me, Applejack replied, seating herself at the table. Thank you, my little ponies. Twilight turned to the Crusaders. We'll be able to make our plans in peace here. I hereby declare that your mission was a success. Yay! The 3 of them cheered right before looking backwards and lifting a leg to examine their flanks, which still remained unadorned. Oh, they all groaned, dejected eyes hitting the floor. The sight made a yellow Pegasus giggle. Hey, chin up, guys, Rainbow enthused, stepping towards the group. There's still lots of stuff to try. You know, you'll get your cutie marks eventually. It just takes patience, the White Mare added, seating herself next to Silver. And I know for a fact that you've all got the patience you need. Just keep trying, dears. They'll come. The Crusaders nodded, their mood somewhat restored before they turned to leave. The White Cult, however, paused as they turned to look back at Rarity. Miss... Her eyes softened as she took in his awkwardness. You can call me Rarity, dear, she replied. Miss Rarity, Silver repeated before turning around to face her. You all sure going to be all right here? Oh, of course, dear. Don't worry about us. We're full-grown mares, after all. He nodded before pawing the ground. You know, I'm sorry I didn't mention this before,
my big brother. His name's Elusive. You're kinda... He turned his green eyes back to her. You kinda remind me of him. Like if you were my sister. It was all she could do to keep herself from sweeping him up into a hug right there. Instead, her eyes misted over as she tried to bring words to order. That's such a sweet thing to say. You're a perfect gentleman, Silver. You take good care of your brother, you hear me? The little unicorn blushed before bowing and nodding. With a quick turn, he was up and out of the burrow. The 6 ponies remained silent as they heard the buzzing of Scooterroll's wings start up before fading into the distance. Collectively, they let out a sigh, Applejack leaning up against a wall. Celestia's mane, Twilight. Please tell me we don't have to do that again. I don't think my heart can take it. Fluttershy trotted up to Rarity, nuzzling the purple-maned one. Will you be all right? I mean, if you don't mind my asking. The unicorn turned to face the rest of the group, tears flowing freely. They weren't our siblings, Applejack, and yet at the same time, they were. I'm just absolutely torn. Please, Twilight, tell me you can get us back home. I miss my sister. Twilight looked around at all the faces present. Each one was beseeching the same request from her, to make things right again. Rarity had joined Applejack in the corner, both of them hugging each other over their shared woes. Rainbow and Pinkie both looked at the pair, awkward expressions on their faces, and Fluttershy... Twilight already had her moment with the Pegasus earlier. She tried not to think of it again. I'll try, she replied to all present. But like I said, it's going to take time. The spell took a lot out of me the first time around, and I need to get my energy back. Well, how long will that take? Dash questioned. The unicorn turned her gaze to the dirt floor. 2, 3 days at the least. Plus I need those items. We had them ready back on our own world, but since they didn't get taken with us, we'll have to gather them all over again. Fluttershy sighed. Then, for now, I guess we'd better make the best of it. The 6 mares looked at each other, having shielded themselves from a stallion's world. Surely they could keep hidden and get back to their own world without causing a commotion, without alerting their other selves to their presence. Right? To be continued. And at the end of each chapter, there's always like a quick teaser of the next chapter, and I'm not going to look at it because I don't want to know what's going to happen. So that actually turned out pretty good for a cold read. We might stick to doing this, actually. Anyway, so that is Chapter 2, Part 2, Part 2, Out of the Mouths of the Babes. And this is On Across an Arrow by Connor Cogwork. I'm aboard Brony. You're hopefully an entertained audience. So I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time.